Hey there, I'm ChaChanna, a writer, a live storyteller, and I am documenting my journey from becoming amateur at professional, an amateur at professional, an amateur at storytelling to becoming a professional storyteller. I'm documenting that on this channel. And you're welcome to come along for the ride. So what I'm about to show you is something that I'm extremely proud of. In July, I hosted, I curated, I produced my first storytelling show. And this was at the Westport Library in Westport, Connecticut. The storytellers were amazing. They were vulnerable. They shared. The audience was receptive. It was such a beautiful and wonderful experience. And I can't wait to do it again. And so what you're about to watch here is an amazing storytelling show. If you've never seen storytelling before, you're in for a treat. If you have seen a storytelling show before, you haven't seen this one, and you're in for a treat. If you were there and you already saw it before, watch it again because you know you're in for a treat. I'm just incredibly proud of this. So the theme was summer, and I call it Storytelling Sundays on the main stage because at the Westport Library, they have a main stage that I've always wanted to get to because I host an open mic storytelling show, which anybody can come and tell a story, practice a story, or some people get on the stage for the very first time. And it's so beautiful to watch people step out into their power on this stage when I'm doing the open mic. And I always wanted to get to the main stage. And finally, I got the opportunity to do that. So not only did I host it, I also actually told the story. So if you've been following me for a while on this channel or and you're like, you know, ChaChanna, you talk about storytelling a lot, but I ain't never seen you tell a story. Well, this is your opportunity to see me do so, along with amazing other storytellers I'm so thankful for. And I'm thankful to the Westport Library for allowing me to do this. And we're going to do it again. I'm so excited. If you would like to have an amazing storytelling event or an amazing host for your conference or your library or your organization, please don't hesitate to reach out to me because I love this experience. I love storytelling. I love hosting, and putting this together was so much fun. I am totally open to doing the same thing for you. If you're interested, go ahead and hit me in the comments below. And without further ado, may I present to you Storytelling Sundays on the main stage at the Westport Library with the theme Summertime.
Good afternoon, story people. My name is Carrie. I'm part of the programming team here at the library, and I want to thank you all for coming out and spending some of this lovely Sunday inside with us. You're in for a special treat today because normally our Storytelling Sundays take place straight back on the other side of the forum in our Sheffer Gallery. I know many of you have been coming to those, but we wanted to mix it up a little this summer, and so we brought the stories out to the main stage. And judging by the amount of people here today on a beautiful summer Sunday, I think this is something we are going to continue into the future. And I see some nodding heads. Can I get some applause? Yes, okay, there it is, it's happening. I know a guy at the library that can make this happen. That's me. So before we get to our stories, I want to introduce our host for this afternoon, ChaChanna Simpson. ChaChanna approached us probably about a year and a half ago and was like, hey, can I bring some storytelling to the library? And as a story person myself, I was like, absolutely. So for the past year or so, she has been hosting the Storytelling Sundays in our Sheffer Gallery. We run them every other month, 2 o'clock, same time, same place, except normally they're back there. And gathering groups of people to listen and to share, and it's been amazing. And so we're really grateful for ChaChanna. We have 2 more left this year. We have one on September 21st at 2 p.m., and the theme is peace. And we have one on November 23rd at 2 p.m., and the theme is retail, the opposite of peace, otherwise known as. So ChaChanna, in addition to being our incredible Storytelling Sundays host, is a writer and award-winning flash fiction author who brings powerful, heartfelt stories to the stage with her signature blend of humor, honesty, and warmth. She is the creator of the YouTube channel ChaChanna Writes, where she shares original stories, some read aloud, others performed live, and documents her journey of building a creative life from the ground up. ChaChanna believes in following your voice with boldness, creativity, and consistency, and through her work, she shows others what's possible when you do. And we are grateful for that. So please give a warm welcome to ChaChanna Simpson.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Welcome, everyone, to Storytelling Sundays on the Main Stage. I'm loud, and I have a microphone now. So yes, I want to thank Northeast Storytelling, the premier storytelling organization in the Northeast, and also the Westport Library for allowing us to have this space. I am so excited. I'm really excited to be on the main stage because when I approached Carrie, she didn't know this is where I wanted to be. And I'm happy that we are here. So this is a curated show. We have fantastic storytellers lined up for you to hear today. And oh my goodness, I cannot wait. Storytelling for me is about connection. Because even though someone's telling a story that you didn't go through, there's something in there, there's a theme that you can connect to and be like, yes, I know what that's like. I experienced that. And that brings us closer together. And that's what I love. Storytelling brings us together as a community. And I'm very thankful that you guys are here. So before I bring these storytellers up, I just want to make a quick note. You're welcome to cheer, to clap, to snap, to let the storytellers know that you like their stories. And I know that you will. But let them feel it. So, also, if you have a phone, if you could put that on silent, or vibrate, whichever one, that would be much appreciated. Thank you. So let's get this party on the show. I would say get this party on the show, which makes no sense. Our first storyteller is Chris Bell, who is a creative writer with a background in visual design and 23 years of experience as a small landlord in Boston. Whether he's making his wife laugh, managing a tricky tenant, or facing his fears as a father, he finds inspiration in everyday moments. A 6-time Moth Story Slam winner, he also enjoys road trips to share stories at community events, senior centers, and poetry lounges across the Northeast, especially if there's good pizza along the way. I asked each storyteller to tell me one of their favorite summertime memories. And when I asked Chris about this, he said, "When my sister and I were young, our dad brought us to a fancy company pool party. He told us to behave because his boss would be there. All day, everyone was so polite that no one was having fun. But once it got dark and the adults finished the punch bowl, everything changed. They started laughing, tossing people into the pool, and shooting fireworks at each other." That sounds dangerous. "While they ran wild, we raided the dessert table. And for the first time, I saw what my father must have looked like as a child." Please welcome Chris Bell.
It's a nice space. Nice sound, too. So before I get started, I just want to say that everyone has stories, and everyone can tell stories. And if you're interested in telling stories, stop by ChaChanna's program Sundays, and you can either listen or practice. It's a real supportive group. Stories are very important these days. It connects people. It's a hot summer night. I'm 7 years old, and I can't sleep because I am so angry. I spent the entire day with my next door neighbor, Angie, and she's no longer my friend. First, we rode our bikes down to the big pond to look for turtles, but because Angie has blonde hair and always smells like flowers, All she ended up doing was getting chased by a bunch of bees. Then, after lunch, the princess was having a party. So we put on our crowns from Burger King, and we made at least 100 mud pies with stick soup and pine cone pudding. Then, it got super hot. So my mom let us run through the sprinkler, even though my dad says we're gonna kill the grass. I mean, I did kind of have fun today, until it got dark, and Angie said, let's catch some fireflies. So my mom gave us a big jar with empty mayonnaise jar, and we ran across the backyard chasing these little blinking lights. And at the end of the night, we caught so many it would light up a big room. But we agreed to share the jar at night. And because Angie's taller than me and thinks she's the boss, she just took the jar from me and said she was keeping them, even though I won rock, paper, scissors twice. So now I'm lying in my boring bedroom, staring at a dark ceiling, thinking about how she's over there watching this amazing light show. And friends are supposed to share. So she's no longer my friend. And after her parents go to church tomorrow, I'm gonna sneak in her house and get my fireflies back. Now, I have the perfect view of Angie's house from my bedroom window. So after they leave, I quietly sneak to the back door, jiggle the doorknob, and just walk in. See, this was a quiet suburb in the 1970s. People just weren't in the habit of locking their doors back then. So once inside, I'm sneaking around and I look and think, wow, these people are rich. They have so many things I've only seen on The Price is Right. But I remember I'm here for fireflies. And that anger inside of me builds and spreads towards everything and everyone in this entire house. And in that moment, my impulsive 7-year-old mind decides that taking some of her family's precious valuables is the only way this is ever gonna be right. 60 seconds later, I'm running out the back door, juggling an automatic coffee maker, portable AM radio, and a softball trophy. Then I stash the loot in a big flowering bush in their backyard. The next day, I can overhear Angie's mother talking to mine outside. I lean over and I can tell she's upset. She says, why would they just take our coffee maker and radio? And I think, wait till she finds out about the softball trophy. They must have been watching us. I was, just like your daughter was watching my fireflies all night. They must not have known my husband's a police detective. What? I back away from the window and think I am going to jail. And over the next 2 weeks, I'm scared to leave my bedroom because every car that drives by looks like a police cruiser. Every dog that barks sounds like a trained canine. And every knock on the door feels like a raid. But then it gets worse. At least 30 people show up to search Angie's house. They're looking all around the yard, under the porch with flashlights, using big ladders to get up on the roof. And I know it's only a matter of time before they find the evidence and trace my footsteps right back to my house, just like the Pink Panther. Terrified, I go to my father and confess everything. And with a confused look, he says, okay, let me understand this. So you thought the police were over there searching their house? And I say, yes, I even heard a helicopter go by. He sighs. Son, Angie's family decided to sell their house. Those were just the people coming to look at it, interested in buying it. Oh. After a month, I'm finally off punishment. And Angie's gone. Her family's moved away. And now I regret getting so upset over the fireflies because as I look at the backyard where we used to play, I realize I just lost my best friend. 35 long summers just come and go. And now I'm a husband, father, and I'm living my childhood dream of working 8 hours a day in a cubicle. One day I get a friend request on Facebook that breaks monotony, and I look, and it's a woman around my age, and she has this long streak of gray running through hair that used to be honey blonde and attract bees. And when I look at her eyes, I see it's Angie, my childhood friend. And in that moment, I can smell flowers. We spend the next couple weeks talking about our kids' jobs and relationships, but the whole time I want to talk about fireflies and unlocked doors. Part of me thinks this is stupid. You were 7 years old. But another part of me can't ignore what I've learned about the world since then. You see, growing up, we were one of the first black families to move into our predominantly white town. And this was the 70s, during the school busing race riots in South Boston. The anger and fear from those events bled into the surrounding towns like mine. And here I was at 7 years old, thinking I'm just making things right. But in reality, I was just stealing from my neighbor and reinforcing a very negative stereotype about racial integration. I always thought I was the reason, my actions were the reason that they moved away. And that always made me feel like I had a rock in my stomach. So one hot summer night, I'm lying in bed just thinking about it. And as I toss and turn, that rock feels heavier than ever. So that night, I try to remove it. I write a long Facebook message filled with guilt and shame, and I address it to the one person I felt who was truly affected by my actions. Angie's now 70-year-old mother. I send the message, and the next day I can see she opened it. But I am looking, and I don't see a response. And now that rock in my stomach, it feels like an ulcer. 3 days later, I'm packing my bag, leaving work, and my phone gives me an alert. I look, and it's her response. Hi, Chris. I don't remember you ever stealing anything from us. I just remember you being a great kid who I liked very much. But since you remember it, it must be true. I completely forgive you. Please, don't waste another second thinking about this. And in that moment, I feel like I'm 7 years old again. And I'm back in my childhood bedroom, holding that big jar of fireflies. But now, I'm just really tired. So for the first time, I imagine what it would feel like to simply open the window, unscrew the lid, and just watch them go. That night, the little boy that still lives somewhere inside of me, he slept so well. Thank you.
Can we give another applause for Chris? Thank you. First of all, Angie, how dare she? But think about it. How many times have you done something or said something and it weighs on you and you think the other person is thinking about you in all those types of ways, and then when you finally are like, okay, I'm just gonna confess and say what I did, and they're like, all right, I forgive you, and you're like, oh, and it just, oh. Okay, so I'm the only one? Okay. But it just shows that we are really our own worst critics at times. So let's be gentler to ourselves. Our next storyteller is Jezrie Marcano-Courtney. Jezrie's stories take audiences on thoughtful adventures, focusing on the universality of human experience through the complexities of being Afro-Latinx. Yes. Drawing from her coming of age, Jezrie writes and performs with Ubuntu storytellers, where true stories inspire audiences to think deeply about the interconnected experience of being human, even if our skin looks different. She's performed for Stories from the Stage, the New Haven International Festival of Arts and Ideas, Mostly True Things, The Mouth Off with Keon, Wolf, Saul Fusner's Songs and Stories, Story City at the Buttonwood Tree, Storytellers New Haven, she has so many, and Telebration. Jezrie knows what she's doing. Jezrie also produces Telebration New Haven at the New Haven Pride Center and Speakeasy on hiatus, a live-themed storytelling event. And when I asked Jezrie her favorite summer memory, she said, "As for my favorite summer memory, in 1992, the same year my story takes place, my family held a backyard barbecue on July 4th at our apartment house on Columbus and Bond. Memorable for the biggest water gunfight that included our next door neighbors. It was also the one night all of us kids were able to play in the street until well after midnight." Now that is a good time. So please welcome Jezrie Marcano-Courtney.
Summer vacation was boring until about a few days ago. It's 1992, I'm 10 years old, and I have to stay at home with my 8-year-old little sister in our first floor apartment in New Haven, Connecticut, while our parents are at work. And this is because they got very tired of us complaining about being bullied at summer day camp. And so, since we are a little too old to get babysat by our grandmother who lives up the street, our routine is really simple. Get up, get washed, get breakfast, and then be quiet. Well, it's been a week, and we are tired of having absolutely nothing to do in the house. So we decide that we're going to help my mom out with the household chores. But we end up leaving her an even bigger mess to clean up. One day, I clean the chicken we're going to have later on that evening, and I forget to dispose of the meat containers, and so that leaves the juices all over the counters, an icky mess for my mom to clean. And then my sister decides that she's gonna help her by vacuuming. But in the process, she sucks up a loose screw, and that makes the disposable dirt bag inside explode. So, bored and banned from helping out around the house, my little sister and I are in our kitchen. We're sitting on the floor in front of the single hung window that is right in the middle of the kitchen. And when you look outside of the window, you get the view of the side of the yard and then the street view. So where we're sitting, the ledge of the window comes up to about our chest right here, but we have just enough space to duck underneath if we need to. And the blinds are drawn just a little more than halfway down, but we still have a clear shot into the street view. And then we see him. He's walking slow. He's tall, but he has a hunch. And he's approaching the gate of our yard to enter it. And all of this time, I thought he was just a story. 3 years prior, before we moved into the first floor apartment, my older cousin was already living on the second floor. And one day while we were visiting, we were standing in the backyard, And my cousin pointed up to the solitary window on the 3rd floor. And he said to me, Mr. McDonald lives up there. And so I asked my cousin, who's Mr. McDonald? And so then my cousin says to me, he's the loco, which is Spanish for the crazy one. And so when I asked my cousin, well, why is he the loco? My cousin says to me, well, that's because one day he killed his girlfriend and her dead body is still in his apartment. Sorry to the young listener in the... And so I say to my cousin, well, how do you know? And so my cousin says to me, well, every time he leaves his apartment, there's this great big stench that fills the stairway of the house. So it has to be his dead girlfriend's corpse. But then he grabs my hand and squeezes it and looks down at me and says, if you ever see the loco, run away. So sitting, watching the loco enter the yard to enter our house, I'm starting to doubt my cousin's story. First of all, the loco is old, and he's moving slow with a limp. And he's wearing Keds like I wear Keds. And I've seen movies, killers only wear black boots. The next day, my little sister calls me over to the same window that we were spying on the loco from. And she says to me, I think I want to say hello to the old man. And I sit down next to my sister and I tell her, this is not just any ordinary old man, this is the loco. And I repeat to her the story that my cousin once told me, and my sister isn't buying it. She's determined to say hello to the loco because she thinks he's never killed anyone and that he's just really a lonely old man who wants a friend. At this moment, I hate my sister's idea, but I have this suspicion in my belly that maybe she might be right. So we wait. And as the loco approaches the gate and then crosses in front of our window, my sister quickly tells me the plan. She says, what you're gonna do is yell out, hello, and then the loco's gonna stop and turn and wave at us, and then we'll be friends. So she puts her hand up so that she can give me the countdown signal. And once the loco reaches the window, we get to 1 and we both yell out, hello! But instead of the loco stopping, turning, and waving at us, he jumps about 3 inches off of the sidewalk and runs for it. And this makes me and my little sister laugh so loud that we're left rolling on the kitchen floor. Well, after that, we dedicated ourselves to making the loco jump even higher off of the sidewalk. But nothing hits like the first hello. And so over that weekend, we are sitting in our parked car outside of Cutler's Records waiting for my dad. My mom's in the front seat, and we're in the back seat telling her everything that's happened. And my mom is listening, and then we ask her, what can we do to make the loco jump 3 inches higher off of, or higher than 3 inches off of the sidewalk? And now something that you should know is that our mother is the best prankster we know. So we knew she would give us the best idea. And so my mother says, you know, it's not nice to scare strangers. And so my little sister counters quickly, and she says, but he's not a stranger, Mom, he's the loco. Then my mom turns to us, and she asks us if he's ever seen us before. And we say no, that he hasn't. So she says, well, make sure he never sees you. And my sister can't believe it. She says, that's it? That's all you're gonna say to us? And then my mom says, also, make sure that your daddy doesn't find out. So the Tuesday of the next week, we're returning to our apartment from an evening wash at the laundromat, and we get home just in time. because it starts to pour down with rain as we get the last of our clean laundry inside. My little sister and I are in our room, and now our room is off of the kitchen, and the entrance to the apartment is right out of the left side of our bedroom. Our parents are in their bedroom putting their clean laundry away, and their room is on the other side of the kitchen off of the dining room. There's a rumble of thunder, and then a strike of lightning, and all of the lights in the apartment go out. So then we hear my dad yell out to us, "Stay in your room and keep putting your laundry away." Well, a full 5 minutes does not go by before there's a knock at the door. So my parents yell out for me to go and answer it. And so I do, thinking it's gotta be my older cousin since he lives on the second floor. But as I open the door, this horrible stench enters the apartment, and it's so bad that I have to cover my mouth and my nose with my hands. And so my parents yell out to me, "Jez, who is it?" And since it's dark, I can't really see that well, but I can make out a figure in the doorway. And then my eyes move upward, and lightning strikes, and it reveals the loco standing in front of me. My hands fall to my sides, and my mouth falls open, and I let out a small squeal. And my sister takes this as her signal to close herself into the closet in our bedroom. And so my parents yell out to me again, "Jez, who is it?" But I can't say anything. And then I remember my cousin's warning, and I try to will my feet to move so that I can run away, but I can't. My parents yell for me another time. And so I muster up the courage to politely ask the local to wait right where he is at our door. And then I turn and make my way to my parents' bedroom. And my mind is full of thoughts like, why did I listen to my little sister? Now the local is here to tell on us and maybe even kill us. Well, my dad meets me at the doorway of the dining room and the kitchen. And he asks me for one final time, "Jez, who is at the door?" And so I whisper to my dad, "The local." And my dad gets frustrated and he says, "Oh, speak up, child." So I stand up straight and I get as much courage into my chest as I can. And I tell him, "Dad, the local is at the door." My dad shoves me to the side. He walks into the kitchen and to the door of the apartment where the local is waiting on the other side. "Oh, hello, Mr. McDonald. It's nice to see you this evening." And his voice trails off in my ears as I'm thinking, oh my God, Daddy knows who the local is. But where I'm standing in the doorway between the kitchen and the dining room, I get a shot to where my mother is putting away her clean laundry. So of course she told on us. If we don't get given over to the local as a sacrifice, Daddy for sure is going to punish us. And then I hear my dad say, "Well, you know where to find us." And my head turns in his direction in horror. And I'm thinking, no, we don't want the local to find us. No, we were only trying to be friendly. Don't give us up. The door closes. And as my dad approaches me where I'm cowering, now with my eyes closed, I feel the lights go on in the apartment. And he gives me a look that only dads can give to their kids. And he says to me, "The local. Don't be so silly." And then he passes me by, goes back into his room. I open my eyes, realizing I'm still alive. I haven't died. This is amazing. So I run back into my room where I can hear my sister knocking from the inside of the closet. So the closet in our room, the door gets stuck when you try to open it. And as I pulled it open, my sister sees that I'm still alive, and so she jumps out of the closet in relief and gives me a big hug. Well, after that night, we never tried to make contact with the local ever again. We were too close to death to ever take that risk. But our older cousin was so amazed by our story of survival. And my mom, she even started to leave us little lists of things that we can do that would not leave her an even bigger mess for her to clean later. Thank you.
Another hand for Jezrie, please. That was amazing. Poor the locals. He was just trying to live his life. He's been framed for murder. Oh, my goodness. But I love how your sister's the one who stirred up all the trouble, and then she went and hid when she could have been there. Oh, my goodness. She's like, yep. Thank you so much for sharing that story. Our next storyteller is Ivy Eisenberg, who is an award-winning humor writer, Moth Story Slam winning storyteller, and comedian. Ivy has written and performed 2 original solo shows, Loud, Large, and Funny, and You Would Cry Too. Her work has appeared in New York Magazine, Tablet, Narratively, Next Avenue, Business Insider, Chicken Soup for the Soul, and many, many more. Ivy leads storytelling workshops for corporations, nonprofit institutions, and the public. She's working on a memoir about growing up in the groovy and turbulent 1960s in far Rockaway, Queens, New York. Now, when I asked Ivy her favorite summer memory, she said, as a kid, our mom and dad would take us 4 kids to a Catskill hotel for 1 week each summer. Dad chose the cheapest accommodations and the most rundown hotel. The absolute rock bottom was Kenmore Hotel. We stayed at the Annex building with a leaky roof and spiders in the woods. We had a total blast. Please welcome Ivy Eisenberg.
It's the summer of 1972. I'm 15 and a half years old. I've just finished junior year of high school, and I am bored out of my skull. There is nothing to do. I hate Far Rockaway. I cannot wait to get out of here. I'm stuck. So Far Rockaway at this time was a pit of crime and decrepitude. And I was studying for the SAT, so I knew the word decrepitude. Every night there would be sirens all night long, and the next morning you'd walk into town and another store would be burnt down. Store owners were burning down their stores to collect insurance. I wanted to burn down my life, collect insurance, and get the heck out of Far Rockaway. I wanted to go to the Catskill Mountains, AKA the Borscht Belt, the country. I wanted to get a job and get out of there. So like a lot of kids my age at the time, I took a bus to Monticello, New York. I worked on the aptly named Liberty Street toward Harold's Dependable Employment Agency. So Harold was this guy with gray, wrinkly skin and a stained white shirt, and he chomped on a cigar, and he would sit in his storefront watching the goings-on in the street. And you'd go into his employment agency. It smelled like sauerkraut. There was all these papers, these pink and white papers on his desk, this whole total mess. It was all dusty. And you go in, you lie about your age, and Harold hooks you up with a summer job. So I go in, and Harold's like, all right, how old are you? Oh, I'm 17. I lied. I wasn't even going to be 16 until October. Yeah, so you got any experience? Yes. I waitressed, and I've done a lot of babysitting. Harold looks me up and down. He starts messing around with his papers, and he dials the phone. Remember those? He's like, yeah, I got a girl here. She can start today. 17. Yeah, you got it. All right, here's what you do, he says to me. You take the bus out back to Fallsburg, New York. You tell the driver, let you off at the Olympic Hotel. And when you get there, you ask for Harriet Rosenberg. You're going to be a camp counselor. So I take the bus to Fallsburg, New York, and they let me off at the Olympic Hotel. It's this big, majestic hotel in the mountains. And they show me to my quarters. So behind the big hotel is the pool. Behind the pool is the day camp with a kiddie pool. Behind the day camp are the ball fields. And then behind the ball fields, all the way in the woods, are the barracks, the bunks for the counselors. 15 girls to a room, about 3 or 4 rooms. Across the ball field are the boy counselors and the boy staff. So this was what I was doing. I was working at the day camp with the little kids who were staying at the hotel, and we got a day off. We got a little salary, we got tips, and except for the one night a week where we had to do babysitting patrol, our day was finished at about maybe 5:30, 6. So here we are, like 50 or 60 teenagers back in the woods, ages 15 to 20, with no supervision, no parents. It was amazing. It's like I felt like I had arrived. I mean, I felt 17. And a lot of the girl counselors smoked cigarettes, and I decided this is going to be my summer project. I'm going to teach myself how to smoke cigarettes. So my first day off, I take the bus to Monticello, New York, and I buy a pack of Marlboros. Marlboro, great brand. You have the Marlboro Man, that hot country guy on the horse. It's very much on the theme of summer and the country. I buy a pack of Marlboros. I go back to the bunk, and I sit outside that night, and I have my first cigarette. I take my first drag, and I cough, and my eyes burn, and my throat burns, and this is crazy. I don't know how anybody does this. When I take another puff, still not great, and I'm making my way through the first cigarette, and then I light up the second cigarette, and I'm like, I'm starting to get the hang of it. And Jane comes over. She'd just been visiting with her boyfriend, and Jane says, "Oh, you smoke?" And I'm like, "Oh, now I do," nonchalantly. So I give Jane a cigarette, and the two of us are sitting outside smoking, and Jane is like doing the thing where she has the smoke go back up her nose, and she can blow those perfect smoke rings, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna need a lot of practice. And then Kara comes out, and Jane, and I give Kara a cigarette. Jane, Kara, and I were just sitting there and smoking, and that had been the first camper incident of the summer. Little Troy, 3-year-old Troy, had taken a poop in the kiddie pool, and they had to evacuate the pool for half a day while they cleaned it up. And Troy didn't care. He had no shame. He just kept trying to get himself back into the pool all morning. And, you know, he was so darn cute. You gotta love a kid with that much moxie, right? So every night, we would be out there in the cool, crisp mountain air, a bunch of young people. Someone would bring a guitar, and we'd be singing folk songs, and we'd be smoking and singing and smoking and singing. It was idyllic. I loved this. So I smoked about 3 packs of cigarettes like the first 2 or 3 weeks I was there. And by the end of the summer, I was up to smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. And I came back after the summer, and came back ready to be a hotshot senior. I mean, I had found my groove here. I mean, I was no Troy by any means. I wasn't gonna walk back to a pool that I had shat in like a king. But I was really feeling myself. I really loved smoking. I loved singing. And I decided I was really going to follow my passions. And I also decided that I loved freedom, and I was going to get away from home as much as I could, whenever I could. And that's what I continued to do. I never did get a boyfriend, but I had a 16-year, luscious, addictive affair with cigarettes. Now, I had to quit about 35 years ago. It was not good for my health, lung cancer and all of that. But I really still yearn for those smoky days. I mean, not the Far Rockaway arson days, but those Marlboro days for sure. Thank you.
Let's give a hand for Ivy and her love affair. It must have been so freeing during that time, because the whole time I'm like, where are her parents? How is she just moving around like that? No supervision. But thank you for sharing your story. Our next storyteller, Denise Manning Keyes-Page, is the founder of Ubuntu Storytellers, an ensemble of story artists of Black and Brown ancestry, and co-founder of Women Tell by the Decades with Jen Monroe. She is currently working on a trilogy, Legacy of a Wealthy Slave, taken from a headline from the New York Times obituary of her great-grandfather. When I asked Denise about her favorite summer memory, she said, "I've been blessed with magical summers as long as I can remember. Lazy days at the beach with bestie and books, but I think the 4th of July on Martha's Vineyard with my daughter, son-in-law, and my firstborn grandson, watching him experience his first fireworks, that's number one." Please welcome Denise Manning Keyes-Page.
I just had an awful, or maybe really fabulous awareness that I'm the oldest one here today. I know this because everybody told you the year and how old they were, just as I'm about to do. It's June 1969, and me and my bestie Rhonda, we're rising high school seniors. And we are so excited about the weekend that's coming up. You see, our dads had bought us bus tickets for a trip to Washington, D.C. Now, this trip was to protest Vietnam, maybe, or maybe it was in support of ERA or abortion rights or whatever it was to Washington, D.C. And the reason our dads bought us these bus tickets is because Rhonda and I were really passionate about social justice. And they encouraged that within us. And one of the ways they demonstrated their encouragement was buying us these bus tickets to this rally or protest or march, whatever it was. Well, our dads say to us, "This is a very important trip, you know." We know. And our dads say to us, "And even though you're just 16, we're letting you go because you're so responsible." We know. And we want to encourage your interest in social justice. We know how important this trip is. We don't need any convincing of that. It's so important, we start planning for its success the very day we know about it. We take that week planning for the perfect bus trip to Washington, D.C. Now, should we wear our hair in the afros that we just adapted? We ask one another. Or maybe we should straighten it. No, we should just take our hair and pile it up and wrap it with some African fabric. No, afros, Rhonda says, definitely we should wear afros. That settled, The next important thing for our successful trip, what should we wear? Mini dresses, palazzo pants, bell bottoms, gauchos, culottes, so many wait. Dashikis, I say. Dashikis, Rhonda nods enthusiastically. Now we've got that all settled for our successful trip. There's one more thing to decide. What books should we bring? Now, we didn't want to carry anything too heavy, but let's see, anything by James Baldwin would be good. Or, how about Leroy Jones, now known as Amir Baraka? Nikki Giovanni, she was hip. Let's do Nikki. No, wait, Rhonda says. Soul on Ice. It just came out. It's a lightweight paperback, and it will show that we're really hip and current with the times. So decided, afros, dashikis, Soul on Ice. Now you might be wondering why this book selection was so important for this rally or protest or march or whatever it was. Well, you see, when our parents told us we were going to Washington, D.C., what we heard was a bus trip to Chocolate City. That's what it was known then, affectionately, before gentrification. More specifically, we heard a trip to Howard University. Howard University, a campus full of kids, boys, black kids, black boys, kids our age. We were going to Howard University, and we had everything planned for this great trip. We weren't worried about whether or not we would be missing, because here's Rhonda and I, we had a reputation. The adults always said about us, Denise and Rhonda, they're so level-headed, they're so sensible, they make such good choices all the time. So we knew that we would be on that bus and no one would expect us to not be with them because we were level-headed. We made good choices. Well, one thing we didn't consider in our careful planning, which in retrospect, maybe we should have given a little time for this, Rhonda and I had a history of not really connecting with public transportation. See, we lived in the suburbs in Connecticut, and we were always trying to get to New Haven. Well, in those days, if one didn't have a driver's license, it was quite the feat to get there. Now, there was a bus. It ran on Route 1, the only street it ran on. There were no bus stops and no signage. It ran infrequently, inconsistently, and unreliably. And Rhonda and I missed that bus often. But on the few times that we were lucky enough to connect and we'd be in New Haven, sometimes we were lost. Well, we weren't lost, we just didn't know exactly where we were. But we didn't let any of that worry us on our trip to going to Howard University. So the day of the trip, our parents stuffed some money in our purses for emergencies, and off we go. Well, when we arrived, as soon as that bus driver hits park and those big bus doors open up, Rhonda and I bolt out the door. And then we stand there with the group, and we're pretending that we're excited about this historic event that we're going to miss. In this moment, it occurs to us that we don't know where Howard University is, and we don't know where we are. Well, we certainly can't ask anybody on the bus. I turn to Rhonda hopefully and I say, Rhonda, did you tell any of the kids we knew? Because we knew kids that went to Howard. Did you tell any of them that we were coming? No. So you wouldn't know how to get there? Well, no. You didn't tell anybody? No. Then Rhonda says, I know D.C. is bigger than New Haven, but I thought it would be kind of like New Haven. When you go to New Haven on the bus, wherever you get off, Yale University is right there. I thought it would be like that. Well, it wasn't. So we decided that we would walk along with our group towards the mall. And you know what I discovered that day? The mall, it's not a shopping center. We followed them. We followed them and decided at the first gas station or first corner store, we would ask for directions. And we did. And somehow we got to Howard. I can tell you to this day, we don't remember if we walked or took a taxi. I can tell you we did not take a bus. So we get to campus, and fortunately, the first friend we call, Art, is on campus, and he graciously agrees to show us around. So Rhonda and I have these books that we know are going to attract people, and we're going to have intelligent conversation. See, we picked these books very purposefully. We wanted to show that we were intellectuals, and even though we were young, we were revolutionaries in the making. So we strut around campus with Art. He introduces us to his friends, and we are just aghast. We had never seen anything like this. This was a world of all kids our age, all Black kids. The closest experience we had ever had to this was the Jack and Jill annual teen conference. And even that was held in white spaces. But here on this campus, we're hearing the sounds, music everywhere. And we're hearing the sounds of Smokey Robinson and Sly and the Family Stone. And it's just like everywhere. Not only is it everywhere, it's coming from the radio. And it's daytime. Now, you might not know this, but where we lived, we had to wait until sunset. And then WYBC, which is Yale's radio station, they allowed a rhythm and blues programming called Black Spectrum that came on at sunset and ended at midnight. That was our sole radio station. To be in an environment where you just turned on the radio and out came the Temptations, this was something we had never, ever been aware of, never known. We knew there was a station in New York, but we couldn't catch it in the town that we lived in Connecticut. And so as we're walking around campus, just in awe of all of this Blackness, where students are walking with afros and dashikis and galas, and it's just who they are. And then the music, the rhythm and blues, begins to be overshadowed by a trumpet, I think it is. The sultry sounds that sound kind of like jazz. And then the next thing, we see a bunch of kids rushing by, and they're shouting out, "Professor Bird, Professor Bird." Well, I turn to Art and I say, "Who's Professor Bird? Why are kids all excited about this Professor Bird?" And he says, "Donald Byrd. Surely you've heard of Donald Byrd." Well, yeah, I had heard of a Donald Byrd. He was famous. He was a jazz musician. Certainly they didn't mean Donald Byrd was like right here on Howard's campus on a Saturday, just here. Yes, he teaches jazz here. And sometimes he just gathers his students and they just jam. This was heaven. Rhonda and I knew if it was ever found out what we had done, we'd be in a lot of trouble, but we had decided it was already worth it. Donald Byrd and the students we heard that day, they later became Donald Byrd and the Blackbirds and released an album, Walking in Rhythm. Rhonda and I soaked up the freedom of Blackness, of being in a place where what you had on was just you expressing yourself. It wasn't Black style. We were in a place where the way we spoke was just us connecting in our genre, in our sameness of status. It wasn't doing Black lingo or slang. We were in a place where the students were wearing their hair all the various ways that the variety of texture and flexibility that our hair gives us allows us to do without explanation, curiosity, or justification. This was freedom. This was where we discovered freedom. Well, we sat really soaking up the freedom of culture in a place that is governed by that same culture. And then we did notice that the sun was setting, and we did have a bus to catch. Now, we hadn't paid attention to a lot, but we too level-headed, sensible girls, we had paid attention to what time we needed to be back at the bus. And fortunately, one of Art's friends had a car and he rushed us back. We didn't know where it was, but Art knew where the buses parked when they came for rallies and protests on the mall. And so we get back to where the buses are, and I'm proud to say, we got there in plenty of time. We had like 10 minutes to spare. But when we had arrived in the morning, there had only been a few buses. And now there were lots and lots and lots of buses. We had no idea which bus was ours. Surely, if the parking lot had been filled like that when we came, we would have noticed something distinguishing about the buses, because Ron and I were level-headed and sensible. We make good choices. But we hadn't noticed any distinguishing features because we didn't know we would have to. Well, we run around the parking lot and Art and his friends drive off because, after all, they got us to the lot on time. And we do find our bus. And we find it just as the rear lights are blinking and the door is hissing closed as it drives away. Two 16-year-old Connecticut suburbanites stranded in Washington, D.C., Chocolate City. Oh my God, what's worse, to be stranded here for the rest of our lives, or to have our parents know what's going to happen to us? Think. Oh, I know. Do you think we can take a train? I don't know. Do we have enough money left for a train? Now, we did have emergency money, but the emergency was all those ethnic earrings on campus and the black posters. We never thought we'd need money to get back home. So, no, we can't take a train. Well, as you can see, we survived. I'm here. We made it out of Washington, D.C. Ron and I we missed a lot of buses going forward in life, and a lot of trains, and a plane every now and again. But one thing we did learn that day, that sometimes an unsanctioned detour is the road home. Thank you.
Another applause for Denise. I, too, a couple years ago, discovered that the mall was not a shopping center. Disappointed. I wanted a cinnamon bun. Thank you for sharing. Are you guys having a good time? Yeah? Okay, fabulous. And the show goes on. Our next storyteller, Rich Foy, grew up in rural Kentucky, but has also lived in Tennessee, Alabama, and Texas. He moved to the great state of Connecticut 5 years ago and has enjoyed exploring all New England has to offer. He didn't write the great state of Connecticut. Let me just put that, I just said that. When he's not working in hospital administration, he travels around the country in his quest to visit all 430 plus National Park Service sites. And last I heard, he had already done 35, so he's well on his way. He also just completed his 7th marathon. Right? When I asked Rich about his favorite summer memory, he said, "We were definitely not a wealthy family growing up, but my parents always made it a priority for us to take a 1-week vacation somewhere in the summer. It was during these week-long vacations where I got to travel out west, go to Disney World, and explore the beach. It sparked a curiosity and excitement for travel that is still with me today." Please welcome Rich Foy.
So it's May 2005, and I'm a senior at Graves County High School in Mayfield, Kentucky. And at this point in my life, you could say that I'm slightly overcommitted. I'm the senior class treasurer, I'm on student council, I'm dabbling in sports just enough to pretend like I'm a well-rounded student. I'm winning speech and debate tournaments like I'm about to run the United Nations, and I'm pretending like I'm in church youth group events just because I want to be canonized. And with all of that momentum and going into that, ending my high school career and going into college, I thought it would be a great idea for me to get a summer job as a dishwasher at this place called the All-American Buffet. Now, it may be kind of weird, why would I want to do that? And I was trying to justify that into my head as well, but going into that summer, I didn't have an A to chase or a trophy to win, so I needed something to continue to prove my self-worth and to make myself be productive. So I found this job, and I found it the old-fashioned way through the classified ads of a paper called the Mayfield Messenger. And there was no LinkedIn, no Indeed, there was just my ink-stained fingers and pure ambition. And so I called the number, I got an interview, and I ended up getting the job. And a few days later, I walk into the All-American Buffet, which was a former Golden Corral. And I walk into the building, and this buffet is shaped like a capital letter I. And it has all of the traditional Southern foods that you can think of in here. You have pulled pork, you have fried catfish, you have fried chicken, you had hush puppies and collard greens and fried okra. You had pecan pie and banana pudding and hummingbird cake. And if you can't tell, we eat very, very healthy in Mayfield, Kentucky. But it was really, really good. So I met the manager at the front of the building, and he walked me past the buffet through these two large metal swinging doors and into the kitchen, and we took a ride, and he took me to the dish pit. Okay, he said, and this orientation lasted about 10 to 20 minutes at max. So he said, okay, so you take this rack, you put the dishes in the rack, you take the hose, you spray the dishes off, you lift the lever, you put the rack into the machine, you pull the rack down, and you wait 3 minutes. You got it? Yes, sir, I said. So a couple of days later, I go back into that first shift at the All-American Buffet, and I'm getting ready, and it's apparent at this time that I have grossly underestimated how hard being a dishwasher at this fine dining establishment would be. It's a really hard job. You're standing on your feet for multiple hours at a time. You're hot, you're sweaty, there's clinging and clanging everywhere. People are yelling. And it's this overwhelming thing for this fairly sheltered kid from rural Kentucky. And I try to get my bearings in as the dishes keep piling up and the tubs of dishes keep coming in, and all of a sudden this waitress comes through this door and she looks me straight in the eye and she says, "Salad plates. We need salad plates right now." And I froze. My brain, which is wired for calculus and giving speeches, had short-circuited, and I didn't know what to do. And I finally, once I came to, I realized that there were about a dozen salad plates in the bottom of this sink, which were just drowning in this water type stuff that I could only describe as a greasy soup. So I put my hands down into that sink like I was mining for shame, and I pulled the dishes out of the sink. I put them in the rack. I rinsed them off with the hose. I put the rack into the dishwasher. I pull the lever down and I wait 3 minutes. And just as I'm about to breathe again, I turn to my right and there's a 55-gallon garbage bag that's filled to the brim with scraps and other kind of trash, and it's emitting heat like it's some sort of living thing. And taking out the trash was my job as well, so I tied the trash bag together, I pulled it out of the trash bin, I lifted it over my shoulder, and I started making my way outside towards the dumpster. And as I'm making my way outside of the dumpster, I'm recognizing that just because I'm taking the trash out doesn't mean the dishes stopped coming. They never stopped coming. And I make my way out to that dumpster. It's a green and it's this big metal thing, and I hoist that trash bag over my shoulder, and as I'm releasing the trash bag, all of this pent-up emotion suddenly starts to be released as well. And I walk over to the side of the dumpster, I sit down, I put my hands in my head, and I just start to cry. And I'm not just crying, I'm sobbing. And I'm sobbing not because that waitress yelled at me or because I thought that this job was beneath me, even though that thought probably did cross my mind. I'm sobbing because for the first time in a very long time, I'm on the brink of failure. And that didn't make sense. I was the kid that everyone wanted to be in the group projects with. I was the kid that made straight A's. I was the kid that had everything going for me. And in this situation, none of that mattered in the dish pit of the All-American Buffet. I was just a normal person and nobody cared about my accolades. So I sat there and I gathered myself together and I had a moment of reflection. I went back in and I finished that job, and I was the last one to leave that night. Today, I've traded the apron and those rubber gloves in for a suit and a tie, and I work in hospital and clinic administration. And as I walk through my hospitals each week, I see clean rooms, I see clean hallways, and I see warm food being delivered. And I know that the people behind those jobs often go unseen, but they never go unnoticed. And as I walk down to my office, on the corner of my desk is a picture frame. And in that frame is that first paycheck from the All-American Buffet. And it's a reminder that just because I fail either in life or in my job, and that's going to happen, that's okay, as long as I pick myself up and I go and finish the job. And sometimes, if you're like me, you quit 2 weeks later. Thank you.
All right, give it for Rich one more time. Who here has also at times met their breaking point? You thought you could do everything, and then, right? You have that moment, you're like, I can't do it anymore. But you picked yourself up and you kept going. So another reminder to give yourself a break. Failure, sometimes it's not a failure, it's just a setback to sit back and to recalibrate, and then quit 2 weeks later. All right, so now it's my turn. And when I asked myself, oh my gosh. Well, thank you. And when I asked myself what my favorite summer memory was, I thought of the time, so growing up, we grew up in we'll call it an urban area. So there was R&B blasting, there was soul music blasting, majority of the time. So I'm reggae blasting. And all of us kids were playing on the street. We played in the street, because that's what you did. And someone drove down the street, windows open, music blasting, and we're living in a world of love. I don't know the words, breaking us down, whatever. And we're just all like, this is not the music we're used to. What is going on here? And he's leaving to the side like, this is the jam. And it was the only time I would say that all of us were just stood straight still and we're just like, what is happening? I love that song to this day. I don't know the words, but I still love it. All right. Picture it. It's August of 2003. I'm 25 years old. And my boyfriend at the time turns to me and says, hey, my friends are going down Farmington River. Do you want to go? I've never heard of something like this. I imagine laying in a donut-shaped tube and gliding down the river, and it sounds divine. So obviously, I'm in. Now, Farmington River is 46 miles long, and 2.5 of that is designated for leisurely floating. You can rent a donut-shaped tube, you can rent the life jacket, and you can also purchase a ticket to the shuttle to take you back up once you've finished your journey. It never occurred to me that we were not going to be using the authorized equipment until we got to the meetup spot, and my boyfriend's best friend turns to us and says, great, you're here. Let's go to the dollar store. For what? Well, we were going to go purchase the pool floats. You know, the ones that you lounge in a pool for? Not designed for going down rapids. Mine was yellow. As we come back and we're approaching the riverbank, I am silently praying and begging that someone will stop us. I'm looking for security, staff, an adult to say, "You can't do that." Alas, no one comes to save me, and I don't want to be the party pooper, so I just put a smile on my face and go along to get along. Standing at the river's edge, the water is shallow and clear enough for me to see the different brown color rocks underneath. Further down, I see some churning, some water's bubbling, and it looks like, white foam. But, it doesn't look bad. I think I'll be all right, I think to myself. So I take my keys that are on a lanyard around my neck, and I put it under my shirt. And then I look around to see who's gonna go first, because it ain't gonna be me. The shortest girl in our group takes her ponytail, wraps it on a bun, and then she goes stomach first onto her float and hand paddles out. The 7 of us watch her, and when she doesn't immediately fall off and drown, we decide it's safe for us to go. So, one by one, we climb on our floats and we go out into the water. It's cool against my hands. Ah! The 7 of us look up and we see Ponytail Girl's sandal fly off her foot and down the river. And I think, wow, this water's moving really fast. Ah! Again, we look and the river has claimed Ponytail Girl for her own. She's gone. I jump into action, and I start hand paddling as fast and as hard as I can. My arms are slicing through the water as if I know what I'm doing. When I catch up to her, I yell, "Grab my hand," over the roaring water, and we connect just in time to sail over the not dangerous foam. We sail over large rocks, we brush up against branches and ping pong along. I reach out my free arm to grab some type of earth to steady us. Meanwhile, the guys, woohoo! Yeah, this is awesome! They are flowing down on these rapids as if they are on their favorite roller coaster ride at Great Adventures. They are having the time of their lives. Idiots. When we all come together, we float on. Nice, calm, gently. This is the relaxing experience that I signed up for. We laugh, we joke, we splash water, we glide. Until someone says, my float is starting to lose air. And pretty soon, one by one, we're not even halfway down this river, and everyone's float is starting to lose air. Except for mine. Thank you, dollar store gods. But now we're stranded. There's no support, there's no lifeguards, nothing. So what are we gonna do? We all scramble over to a large rock on the embankment to strategize and debrief our situation. We don't know how far down this river goes from where we are. Majority of our floats are completely deflated. We never bought the shuttle ticket to take us back up after we're done. We had no contingency plan. We were just going with the moment. What are we gonna do? And then one of us suggests, hey, how about we go back up the way we came? After a quick vote, we have a new plan. But now we have a new problem. To the left of us are rocks and trees. To the right of us are rocks and trees. There's no clear path. So we scramble up the side of the riverbank, gripping on tree branches, stepping on roots, and climbing over jagged rocks like unprepared parkour athletes, slowly and painfully scaling the side of a skyscraper. And with every step, I'm getting more and more furious. I am ChaChanna Simpson. I do not hike. I do not climb. I am not one with nature. I am better than this. But yet here I am, clinging to a tree branch, praying that I don't slip and fall and bust my head on the rocks below. Eventually, we make it back up to the top. Scraped, bruised, exhausted. And we part ways. And I wish that I could tell you that I came out this knowing that I am stronger than I ever thought. Or that when my intuition hits me and I get that gut feeling, that I listen to it. But all I ever learned was that I was never hanging out with these people ever again. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. And I want to give let's give all our storytellers a big hand. Chris, Jezrie, Ivy, Denise, and Rich, and me. Thank you so much. And a huge thanks again to Northeast Storytelling and the Westport Library. I say library because I say it library, and I know that's not the way you're supposed to pronounce it, so I just make it library so it sounds fancy. Now you know my secret. So I hope that now you are feeling a little more connected, that stories are bubbling up for you, and because I know that's gonna happen, remember that we're meeting again in September 21st. The theme is peace. We meet up over there, it's an open mic, and you can come, and if you feel inspired and you wanna share a story, you wanna test something out, it is a welcoming audience, and we look forward to seeing you there. So thank you again for coming, and I hope to see you next time.
Thank you so much for watching. I know that you loved it. And if you are looking to bring storytelling to your event, your organization, your conference, your job, wherever, whether that's hosting or telling a story, please think of me. I would love to be able to do that. Go ahead and hit me in the comments below or reach out to me at ChaChanna@ChaChannaWrites.com.